Hello, my name is Anthony Ajin, and in this assignment, we are to have fun with SQL functions and SQL triggers. So, in this assignment, we have been asked to start with a question. So, looking at the table at my database, I have a question here which says, how can I extract the first name and the last name from a full contact name in SQL? That is my question, and we are to begin creating an answer. And if you go to our ToScript, we have created an answer which says so current progress is I have the full contact name, which is Christiana Bergland. I can see that the first name and the last name are separated by a space. So my next logical step is I have to find the position of the space in the name, use the position of the space to extract everything before the space as the first name Christian, and extract everything after the space as the last name Bergland. So this approach can be implemented by using SQL strings functions such as char, index, left, right, or substrings functions. So if you go to our next question, you say research and test a solution. So we did a research on it. I did a research on it. In my research, this is the answer I got. So if I run this command, this is what I get. So from question 3, say create an ad hoc query. So I created an ad hoc query which I ran, and I get the answer. So if we move to 4, you say research and test the solution, which is question 4. You see that I did a research on it, and after I run this solution, let's see what I get. I still get my answer back. So I have full name, and I was able to extract the first name from the full name. Then I'll move on to create a user-defined scalar function. A user-defined scalar function, which is 5. So this is a user-defined scalar function, and if I run this script, it says create function must be first name start in a query level must declare. So if I run this query, it gives me an error because it says that there's already an existing object name first name, because I've already run this query and it worked, so I can't run for the second time. Okay, so on my question 6, compare UTF result to ad hoc query results. Okay, so on my question 6, if you go to so this is the comparison of UTF required to the ad hoc query. Okay, and so if you run this query, invalid object name, so we have an error matching here. Valid object error line 1. So that giving me an error because I was using the wrong database. So if I choose the right database, let's execute it. If we execute it, now we get our results. I didn't check to see that, so it's giving me. So let's move on to question. Let me say perform a 0 result expected test. So we are going to perform a 0 result expected test. Okay, so if you go to question 7, so this is the question 7 query, and if you choose the right database and if you execute it, okay, so we get a 0 result. And question 8 says ask the next question. So what is the next question that we are supposed to ask? What is the next question that we are supposed to ask? So we are going to create an ad hoc SQL query to select the last name from the contact name. Is the first name procedure going to help me find the last name as well? So with this, if we select the database and if we execute it, we are able to get our last name as well. So I'll move on to triggers. Sorry, I have to close all these so that I can bring in the trigger function. Okay, I'm just going to have to go to my downloads and at my function with triggers. I can just open all. We are on triggers. So if we go to triggers, we are to start with a question. So I started with a question: how can we automatically track when a record was last modified and who last modified it in a SQL Server table? So that is our first question. And our next question is we are to begin creating an answer. So we are going to my next, we begin creating an answer. Currently we have defined a core database requirement automatically, capturing the timestamp and everything. So whenever a rule is modified, we have identified an initial ad hoc query structure to select these audit field from the table. However, an ad hoc select query only read existing value. It does not automatically generate or update them when data changes occur in the database. So my next logical step is to implement a mechanism that automatically populate modified data with the current system time and modified by with the current log in user whenever an insert or update action occur. So these are the answers that I created. And if we move on to my next question, which is research and test a solution, which is question 3. So I research, then I test the solution. So I'm going to select my database, and you say column name in each table must be unique. Already this query has been triggered. So if I trigger it again, there's it says modify in table is specified more than once. So it is done once and cannot be done again. So it is already triggered. That's why it's giving me this error. Okay. So I'll go to my next question: create an after update trigger. Okay, so if I go to my database, question 4, then I choose and I execute the command. Column name in each table must be unique. This again too. So after that, I created this update trigger. Okay, so this is my SQL selected statement. And if I move on to the next question, I have test result to see if they are as expected. So I test the result to see if they are as expected. I will choose my database, I will execute it, and then I will see that yes, my result is really the expected result. So you see that modified by Anthony Ajin, the date that I modified it, and the what I did here. So I have an SQL selected statement here which insert it some value into a table, and here is to test it if it has been actually inserted into the table, okay, and who did the modification and the date and time that it was modified. Then I'll move on to my next question. Ask the next question. So if I go here, so how do we capture the server user, the SQL Server Engine Service account or current server login instead of the application user or domain login in the modified by column? Begin creating an answer. So this is the answer that I already created for my question that I asked, and if I execute it, it gives me server user is this my server name, session user is this my session's name, and I don't know if this is an account. Definitely is an account. Original logins account is this. It's my original logins account. So if I move on to the next question, I think from here I am done. So I'll be adding my 2+ resources on how this resources that help me to finish this assignment. Thank you.